Today is the day that we bulletproof this 24 valve. My name's Austin. This is the Mopar Garage, and we build cool stuff in here. All right, it's time to do the thing that you have to do with every VP44 truck in existence. For those of you who haven't been following along, click up here for all the details. This is a 2000 Dodge that I found in really good shape that we're gonna be using as the junk hauler. We're gonna be hauling around all the rest of our junk second gen stuff with it. This thing's super clean, super stock. All right, same old story. Most of you guys watching this are already familiar with it, but the 1998.5 to 02 24 valve Cummins went to a electronic injection pump called a VP44. They went away from the P7100 that was in all the 12 valves, that was mechanical, that was absolutely bulletproof. The issue with this VP44, it was actually a pretty good pump, but it was lubricated by diesel fuel. So what would end up happening is the lift pump, which was mounted up on the block in these things, would be subject to all the heat and vibration from this engine. The lift pump would go bad, they weren't that reliable, and then that would then in turn starve the injection pump for fuel, and you'd immediately fry your VP44. So every one of these has to have the lift pump addressed in them. Unfortunately, this truck does have that stock lift pump, but with a twist. So I got this truck home and I knew I'd have to address the lift pump, so I immediately went looking and I didn't see a lift pump. And I'm like, what the heck? To my knowledge, every single one of these 98.5 to 02s had the lift pump on the block. Well, this truck doesn't. So I started chasing wires, right? And chase this guy up here from the lift pump wiring up to this kind of additional relay that's been added right here. And then I trace the wiring back and it goes back down to the rear of the truck. So I start running part numbers on this wiring. They're Mopar part numbers. Start running part numbers. Come to find out, there was a factory upgrade that was done on a few of these where they relocated the lift pump from the block back to the fuel tank, in the tank, almost like a gas truck, an in-tank lift pump. So I didn't know that any of these had done that, but apparently Dodge had tried to do that to make it more reliable. Unfortunately, it wasn't any more reliable. It was just way harder to get to. So unfortunately on this thing, we got to drop the tank. So what are we going to do to upgrade this lift pump? Well, I did a lot of research on this. You guys know on this channel, it's mostly gas stuff. I don't do a lot of diesel. So I did a lot of research. I was thinking I was gonna get either an Airdog 4G with the filters and the water separator filter and everything on it, or the FAST. Turns out, since this truck has mechanical injectors on it and it is going to be left stock, you don't need to go that route. So we went with the Airdog Raptor. Okay, so this is a really high quality, 100 gallon per hour lift pump. Now, you don't need the water separator filter because water, evidently from all the research I did, when I talked to Airdog, when I talked to FAST, you don't need those filters on this truck. Now, you'd want them if you were doing, they make the 160 gallon per hour, 200 gallon per hour. If we were gonna make horsepower with this thing, we would go with one of those real high dollar pumps. Now, this is still a high dollar pump. I think it was like 470 bucks or something. But this will get us a really reliable pump, but it's not gonna be overkill. We, again, are gonna leave this truck stock. So we opened up our kit here. We've got our wiring harness with zip ties, installation manual. We've got our new draw straw for this goes on the factory lift pump when we have to modify that. Mounting hardware, mounting brackets, fuel hose, fittings, and the pump itself. All right, everything's laid out on our cowboy workbench here for the pump itself to mount it. I'm gonna take a wild guess and guess that this is the suction side of the pump. And this is the engine side of the pump, just by the fact that it says in giant letters. Luckily, our two fittings, quick connect fittings that'll go there, are wildly different thread pitches. So, gonna be hard to screw that up. Gonna stick these guys on either side. They've got an O-ring on them already. All right, underneath the driver's side of the truck, this bad Larry is gonna mount to the inside of the frame. It's got a spacer to kind of keep it out of the way of these lines here, these brake lines. And this plate, I believe, will slide up under these guys like so, bolt through the top, and your outer plate will be on the other side of the frame. These acorns are ridiculous right now, you hear that? All right, so we're gonna need our spacer so that this dude can clear these lines. And the question is, I wanted it kind of as far up out of the way as I can get it without it being too high, right? So I'm thinking if we do it right there, give us some clearance. Yeah, I think so. So one hole up from the bottom. Yeah, I think that'll work. So we've got our plate here. We've got our countersunk bolts, right? We're gonna go like we kind of saw on the truck, one hole up from the bottom. So these 4 holes are gonna be our mounts. We've got our little spacer block that's gonna do things, gonna space us out. All right, we've got our Airdog mounted. If I had a traditional fuel pump on this truck and not the in-tank one, all I'd have to do is run the line from the suction side over to the sending unit on top of the tank, and then this guy up to the filter housing, and we'd be done under here. Well, wiring, but unfortunately, we do have to drop the tank, and as you guys know, the worst part about dropping the tank is dropping the tank. It's the worst. So we will drop this thing down and reconnect with you once it's on the ground. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel. Hit the button now. Let's do this. All right, well, that was about as much fun as you'd expect. Got our tank out, got our little sending unit all cleaned up, ready to pull this thing out and modify this for the old draw straw. Which side? Oh, it's on this side. Sending unit. Obviously, your sending unit wires are here. You don't want to disturb those. The lift pump itself is right in the bottom. We got us a couple of plugs for that. I assume these will both become returns. Where in the past, this was a send, this was a return. With this lift pump style, I imagine they'll both become returns. So we're gonna cut these two. We need to keep the 2 blue wires. We're gonna cut the 2 off the sending unit. Again, still have not looked at the instructions. Okay. All right, not sending unit, lift pump. Wow, really sharp dikes I've got here. All right, there we go. Oh, come on, baby. There we go. Okay. All right, so there's that. All right, factory lift pump is out, and into the trash it goes. So we don't have, this is going to be the draw for the quick connect. we don't have a lot of different options as to where we can put this. It's got to be on this side because this other side honeycombs underneath. So I guess it's got to be this side of the unit. So we've really only got like this spot right here, but then this guy's in the way who we're not using anymore, because this would have been, there would have been a vent hooked up. So maybe what we'll do is we'll cut this here. That'll allow us to go out this way. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm pulling this nipple off here. This is like some kind of vent that's been capped off. And we'll grind, we gotta grind the honeycomb section here off anyway. So we'll grind off that as well. And that'll give us a pilot hole. And then we'll place our guy right here. I think that'll be our best bet. All right, well, we've ground this guy pretty flat right here where our quick connect is gonna sit. We do have the issue of down here on the other side of the hole we're gonna use, we've got this little cross fitting, but we've got to drill a 5/8 hole here, so hopefully that'll take care of that fitting underneath. So gonna throw a 5/8 bit on this thing and see if we can't break some plastic. All right, draw straw mod is complete. We got our hole. We kind of filed out everything around here. Got our 5/16 hole, and then on the bottom, we were able to get in there between drill bits and grinders and everything else and get rid of that kind of honeycomb down here, or the 4 braces down here, and kind of got this nice and smooth. So it's ready to accept the fitting. We do have to make a modification down at the bottom of the tray, I believe, to hold the draw straw itself. So I'm gonna look into that. All right, we got our custom little draw straw set up. Nut tightened down for the quick connect fitting. And then we put this little bracket on down here, a couple 3/16 holes, and then our draw straw. And she's ready to go back in. All right, the tank actually went up in there pretty good. Ran our line from our fitting that we installed on top of the sending unit, ran the line down to our Raptor pump. You just slide these little quick connect fittings in each side of the line, cut it to length, throw that one on, throw the one on the output side of the pump, and we're gonna wire tie this up to these existing brake / fuel lines up here. And then that goes up to the front of the truck. And then you pull this little banjo fitting off of your filter housing. And then you have one more quick connect. It's a 90-degree where the fuel line comes up and connects and deposits into your fuel filter. So, fuel system is done. Let's take a look at the wiring harness. So on our wiring harness, I just want to lay it out and understand it. Here's our relay. So this would be the front of the truck. Okay. So we've got relay that'll attach to the firewall. This one here presumably goes to our lift pump wiring. That is, what is that? That's a fuse. And then we've got this to go to our battery. They give us way too much wire to go to our battery. So battery positive, negative here. This goes on the firewall. This plugs into the lift pump. And then in the back here, that plugs into our Raptor pump. So our kind of factory Mopar upgrade plugs into the main harness here. That goes up to the existing lift pump wiring. So we're probably gonna leave this, and then I'll just disconnect everything up there, electrical tape, and kind of put it in a circle up there. This is our new wire I fed down in. I'm just gonna run it along the frame here, gonna zip tie it to this existing wiring harness. We're gonna go back over the frame, onto the back side of the frame, to our Raptor 4G lift pump, and this guy will plug into this guy. So plugged in underneath. Again, we're gonna zip tie everything at the end here, but we're plugged in. The rest of that wiring is very simple up under the hood. All right, so we're gonna disconnect this wire, okay, which goes back to this relay from the battery. And then we're gonna cut these zip ties here. This guy feeds down into our, I don't know if we can get it on the camera here, but our little plug right there, this little plug right here for our lift pump. So we're gonna disconnect these, and then I think I'm just gonna coil it up here on the firewall. And then, geez, these acorns are brutal. They're probably denting my truck. So then we're just gonna spiral that, zip tie it, electrical tape it, and probably leave this right on the firewall. Just in case, you know, because it goes down, this side goes down into the actual wiring harness of the truck. So I kind of just want to leave everything there and then just tape it off. Alrighty, everything is wire tied up. Very happy with how it came out underneath the truck. Underneath here, we've got our fuel line all tightened up, electric. Everything came out really, really good. Looks very factory. Now the task is to test fuel pressure. So I got a fuel pressure gauge poked into the test port. Should be around 15 pounds or so with the ignition on. We can adjust it with this guy if we need to. This is our adjustment screw. If fuel pressure is low or high or whatever, this is an adjustable pump. So we got our gauge hooked up. We're hoping to see 15 or so with the key in the on position. We have injectors 1, 3, and 4 cracked open to help bleed the fuel out of it. And let's see. I'm gonna turn the key on. We should hear the pump. Okay, pump came on. Don't see any fuel pressure though. The pump is running. I don't know if my gauge is off or if I've got it plugged into the wrong side. Well, truck fired up, so we can tighten these injectors back down. You can see there's some diesel fuel here. The injectors did spray. So we're gonna tighten those babies back. The truck should run now. I don't know why we're not reading any fuel pressure on that gauge. I may have plugged it into the wrong side. All right, the truck fired right up. So I tightened my injectors, 1, 3, and 4. Tighten the injectors back down. She should fire right up. I don't know why my gauge isn't reading any fuel pressure. I double checked, it is plugged into the correct side. Truck starts right up. Okay, here we go. Reading 10 at idle. I feel like that's a little low. Gonna loosen this lock nut right here and then turn it out. Let's see what that does. Okay, that is almost no fuel pressure, so it goes the other way. Let's try that. Okay. We actually got a little bump in fuel pressure before I started it, so that thing must be turned up now. Oh yeah, I like that a lot better. Yeah, that's where you want it to be at idle right there. That might actually be a touch high. All right, we're gonna turn this out and see what the gauge does here. I like that right there. Beautiful. All right, we'll tighten this here lock nut, and I think I'm happy with that right there. Well, all right, we can now reliably tow with the old Cummins. I barely looked at the instructions for that. I kind of just figured it out as I went, so I'm sure I did a couple things wrong. Some of you diesel guys may comment that down below. But very happy with how it came out. Pump looks great, works great. It's really cool how you can adjust that fuel pressure like that. So we're running really nice fuel pressure. 16.5 pounds is where we ended up. And yeah, we can go pick up more second gen junk so that we can buy, sell, flip, all that. Now we can reliably do it. Like any 24 valve, I was a little nervous to drive that thing without an aftermarket lift pump in it. Don't want that VP44 to go bad. So that's pretty much gonna do it for the video, guys. Appreciate you watching. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment down below Airdog Raptor with an exclamation point if you made it this far in the video. We will see you guys on the next one.